everyone, my name is Annie Jean-Baptiste, and I lead product inclusion at Google. I'm so excited to be able to present at Mobile World Congress and talk about building for everyone and with everyone. So Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And that's not just for some, it's really for everyone. So no matter where you are in the world, who you love, what you look like, how much money you make, we're truly building for everyone. And so that's really what product inclusion relies on. The crux of product inclusion is really to make sure that we're bringing diverse perspectives to the table at critical points in the product design process so we can lean into our mission. And so you may have heard about universal design or inclusive design, and what product inclusion does is to build on top of those approaches. We focus on 13 dimensions of diversity and the intersections of those dimensions, some of which you're seeing here. And when I talk about intersectionality, that means that we're focusing on users who are historically underrepresented in the product design process, but we're not focusing on solely one of these underrepresented dimensions, but how these underrepresented dimensions intersect and how that affects how a user moves through the world and how they intersect with our products. So using myself as an example, I'm a Black woman who also happens to be left-handed. And I'm not Black on Monday, a woman on Tuesday, and left-handed on Wednesday. All of those things are happening within me always, and they affect how I use products and how I move through the world. So we're really trying to help our teams realize that users are multifaceted and that they need to really think about the different facets that make up a user and really center those underrepresented dimensions in the product design process. So at Google, we talk about building for everyone. Our team added with everyone to that process and to that mission because we really believe that you cannot build products for everyone and assume that you know what they need without speaking to them. And so that's really what product inclusion does. We really work to be intentional about bringing those diverse perspectives to the table by bringing diverse people and underrepresented people into the fold at those key process points so that we're building products for people, but with them as well. And so I think a lot of times when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we talk a lot about diverse inclusion being the right thing to do, which it obviously is. But I also want for people to start to think about how much opportunity and how much power underrepresented consumers and users hold, right? So sometimes I think there's a misconception that these groups are very small. And I wanted to just show you all that there is actually a lot of opportunity that these groups hold, right? So what you're seeing here are some stats around different underrepresented groups, whether it be purchasing power or demographic usage of mobile apps, et cetera. And so you're seeing here how demographics are shifting and shifting rapidly in a globalized world. And I think it really just reiterates how important it is to center and to prioritize these underrepresented groups, right? There are 1 billion people in the world with a disability. There's $1.4 trillion in Black purchasing power in the US alone. We see $18 trillion in global women's incomes in 2020. These numbers are only growing. And so again, I really encourage you all to start to think about these underrepresented groups and how you can bring these perspectives to the table, not only at one point in your process, but at multiple points along the way. And so I'd love to show you a quick video that kind of demonstrates some of the work that we've done to make sure that all skin tones are represented accurately and beautifully.
Pictures tell stories. It doesn't really matter if it's a selfie or if it's a portrait that somebody is taking of another person. You are sharing in that human moment.
Let's take a picture, you two. 1, 2, 3. No, he's too dark.
So this is where the discussion started.
Here, just use my phone. It's got a better sensor.
A better sensor? What does that even mean?
Color tuning is an extremely complicated process. When we look at images, what we try to do is figure out how much of a difference there is between, let's say, a reference image and the image that we actually are trying to quantify. We were running some tests on a product, and it was the proximity sensor we were testing. And we said, oh, it looks like it does 60 centimeters. And we looked at each other and go, we're both white. The technology itself, as many people will say, is not racist. It's just that it wasn't tested properly to make sure that the designers weren't unconsciously biased. Hey, there's an entire world out there and we want to make sure this works for everybody. I love the fact that we get to influence cameras, that we get to share those experiences of life and emotion. And to me, that is what imaging is about. It is a vehicle to express humanity.
Take a picture of you two. 1, 2, 3.
So what I think is really powerful about that video is that we saw Peter Sherman, who is an engineer and one of our first partners in product inclusion, talk about the products not being intentionally biased, but making sure that you're getting those diverse perspectives to the table, right? When he realized that his team wasn't as diverse as it could be, he wanted to seek out those alternative perspectives so that we could make sure that the sensors could actually accurately reflect all skin tones from the lightest to the darkest. And I think that's a real testament to how you can bring different people from different backgrounds together to create a product that really works for everyone. So now I'll walk through 3 different parameters that we really focus on to make sure that teams across Google and different products can really make sure that they're building for everyone and with everyone. The first one is to really address the user. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but we want to make sure that all different dimensions are really being brought to the forefront when we're building products. So again, race, gender, age, ability, geographic location, socioeconomic status, etc., are some of the dimensions that we're looking at when developing a product. We want to make sure that we're bringing those dimensions to the forefront when we are thinking through our user testing, our user research, etc. The second one is to start with equity. This shouldn't be an afterthought, and it shouldn't be something that we're trying to retrofit after we've already created the product. The earlier that we can bring it to the forefront, the better. And so we really want to make sure that those voices have a seat at the table and they're really getting their voices heard, and those voices are helping to shape the direction of the product design process. The third one is to continually test. And so we want to make sure that our products are inclusive. And so we're always researching and testing. This isn't a checklist, and it should really be thought of just like any other part of your product design process, right? You're always iterating, you're always learning more, you're always seeking feedback. And so product inclusion should be just like any other part, just like that. And you want to always continually be testing, getting more feedback from these underrepresented groups, and continuing to iterate and make your product better. What I want to also really reiterate and double down on is that a commitment to product inclusion doesn't just live with our central team. It really is throughout the company. And in fact, it couldn't just live with our team, right? It really needs to be owned by the product teams because they're the experts in their products and services. And so there really needs to be accountability at the leadership level, but also at the product level. And so we serve as the group that helps to kind of set the strategy across the company, help to create the resources and infrastructure, but then the teams take it and make it their own, and they're really excited to do so. And so I'd love to show you another example of how we did this work with the Google Assistant.
Okay, Google, what's your name?
Did I forget to introduce myself? I'm your Google Assistant.
You know, the exciting thing about working on the Assistant is it's this like brave new world where we're creating something that's going to speak in a personal conversational manner. I'm Beth Tsai, and I'm the policy lead for the Google Assistant.
There are no rules yet because we're creating them. We had to design this character that's going to be at the mercy of the internet.
People were going to say racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever stuff.
So how can we, give it as good of a chance as it can? I'm Emma Coates, and I'm the character lead for the Google Assistant personality. My favorite part of it, which I hope someday we can have, is that it had a pet puppy GIF that was just a GIF.
Part of the challenge of doing the policy for the assistant was figuring out how we can make sure that the product is inclusive, how we can make sure it's safe. So we partnered with diversity and inclusion with Randy Reyes from that team. And we partnered with Trust and Safety Search, my colleague Bobby Weber.
We were trying to suss out what topics are very controversial.
Things can just go wrong terribly, right?
And as soon as you start thinking about that, diversity is clearly integral to this process.
It makes you think a lot about how what you're creating makes somebody feel.
So working with Randy, we went out to the ergs here at Google, and we invited members of those ergs to come in and participate in our tests.
In order to really build for everyone with everyone, we need to have those perspectives reflected. I'm Annie Jean-Baptiste. I am Google's Global Product Inclusion Evangelist. Google has always said, focus on the user and all else will follow. If you're thinking about a challenge or a product, you need to make sure that you're intentional about expanding who your users could and should be.
It's super valuable when you have enough people coming from a point of view. It helps us to keep in mind and to write for the diversity of the audience that the assistant actually is reaching.
Around launch time, it was becoming more and more clear that we weren't going to have tons of user escalation.
With the assistant, no news is good news.
We have billions and billions of queries. We've only gotten reports of 38 queries that were so offensive that we needed to actually take action.
0.0002%.
I think it's a testament in general to the success of the product as a whole and the cross-functional effort to making it such a safe, inclusive product. We stress test now for all of the assistant launches. We want the assistant to be, a product for everyone. We want the voice of Google to be something that speaks to everyone.
This is probably the thing that I'm proudest to have worked on.
And so I leave you with a few final points. I think the first one is that product inclusion isn't something that you just check a box with. You want to constantly be testing and building for inclusion. You also want to make sure that you're not thinking about one dimension in a silo, right? It's not like you're ranking different dimensions of underrepresentation. You want to be thinking about these multifaceted users and making sure that you're bringing intersectionality into the forefront. And then the third piece is really to think about the opportunity that's at the table when you do center underrepresented voices and it make people feel seen. Because I think at the end of the day, everyone just wants to really feel seen. They want to feel valued and they want to feel thought of in your products and services. And I really do feel that that's what all of us want to do when we're building products and services. And technology and mobile devices are meant to be helpful. They're meant to really power and amplify people's lives when done right. And so let's really just all think about how we can help people power their lives with their loved ones, and let's do that for everyone. And so with that, thank you so much for allowing me to talk to y'all about product inclusion. And if it's helpful, I'm happy to take questions. However, Mobile World Congress is having us take questions. Thank you so much.